Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you're joining us today. Thanks so much for joining us on the first Ask Microsoft Anything in 2025. We're here, we made it. As you see today, I do not have a lot of hats behind me because I'm reporting live from Redmond. So I don't have a nice setup, but I'm just happy to be here with my awesome group of panelists. So I'm your host, Christian Montoya, product manager lead on the Windows 365 team, working on awesome things like Windows 365 Switch, Windows 365 Boot, and also the new Windows 365 Link. How will we also introduce awesome panel today, Donna, Go, and Kyati? So, Donna, if you want to start.
Sure. Well, thanks, Christian, for having me here. It's been a while since I've got to be on an AMA, so it's nice to be back be back with you. So for folks that don't know me, I'm Donna Ryan. I'm a CAT PM on our combined AVD and Windows 365 team. What that means is I'm more customer focused, so I talk to customers, spend more time with them, get their feedback, find out what's working, what's not working, and then work with our other PMs to make sure that what we're building is what our customers want.
Okay. Well, yeah, here. Good to be back here. Thanks for inviting us. So I'm Go Komatsu, product manager of Windows 365, mainly working on Windows 365 Frontline, which is our topic today. So happy to share what we have.
Yeah, I forgot to introduce that. All right, we'll get to that in a second. But yeah, Kyati, if you want to, you want to finish up.
Sure. Hey everyone, I'm Kiati Shah. I am one of the feature PMs. I work alongside with Go on Frontline shared and dedicated modes. So super excited to answer your questions today.
Sweet. Yeah. So Go, thank you for the reminder. Yeah. Why are we here today? Windows 365 Frontline in shared mode. So we'll get to that in a hot second. I know we had an awesome Ignite announce. I'm going to recap some other announcements since then, including some December, January, and then we'll dive right in. So since the last time we all saw each other in December, it's been quiet because of the holiday break, the calendar new year. Now it's the Lunar New Year. So it's been a bit quiet, and we always want to have safe deployment practices. Don't send too many features live right when no one's going to be around to work and catch them. So one thing we had announced recently in Windows 365 is in our device management space. Now you can actually use these bulk actions, restore, restart, and troubleshoot, all within the Cloud PC report, the Cloud PCs that aren't available. So go play with that. Please use that alongside the other reports to get a better understanding of your environment and let us know how that goes. So yes, restart, and troubleshoot, all those things. Great to do en masse if you see a lot of devices that are affected. So that's most of our announcements for the service, the past month and a half. But yeah, why we're here is Windows 365 Frontline in shared mode. So Go, can you take us away? Like, what did we announce at Ignite, and how is the in shared mode, just to start us off, different from the original Windows 365 Frontline that we released previously?
Yeah, thank you, Christian. So as you mentioned, we already have Windows 365 Frontline GA back in 2023. And to differentiate from what we have announced at Ignite, which we're calling in shared mode, we're going to be calling that original Frontline as Frontline in dedicated mode. Just a terminology here. And what we announced at Ignite is we're enhancing Frontline with a new mode that we are calling in shared mode, which is a little bit different from what we have been building with Windows 365 Cloud PCs, where this new mode will allow you to set up a Cloud PC for a specialized purpose that can be accessed by multiple users, that can be assigned and accessed by a group of users. So you can kind of consider this as we're trying to bring in your shared physical PC to the cloud. That is the purpose of the shared mode. And we have been seeing a lot of interest in this mode after our announcement, and we are currently in public preview and marching towards GA later in this year.
Got it. So when you talk about the frontline and dedicated mode, can you remind me, like, those cloud PCs were still, like, if I have a cloud PC, it's mine. I can customize it. It has all the apps I install, my personalizations, etc. And that was the same for the dedicated mode machines, correct? Like, they're still yours. It was just you can only access it based off some sort of concurrency and some sort of limit, right?
Exactly. So that is the biggest differentiator between the shared mode and dedicated mode. As you just mentioned, in dedicated mode, it's still your cloud PC. You are, you have the ability to change your personalization, the background colors. If you need to change the language, you can do that as well, and that will remain to be your cloud PC while you are assigned to that cloud PC.
Okay, nice. And then shared mode is just
Yes.
more of a communal sort of log in
Exactly.
and do stuff.
Yeah, so it is in a shared mode, so which means that every time you log in, you might be logging into a fresh environment, and whenever you log out, we will be cleaning up. So whenever the next user comes in, they can also start from a fresh start.
Okay, perfect. We do have a question coming in from actually one of our mechanics videos on the topic. And Don, I feel like this is a good question for you since you have so much history in this space.
Okay.
So is the frontline and shared mode, or is frontline and maybe frontline and shared mode, is this the same concept of VDI, only this time around the device is dedicated? Can this also run for multiple users with directories in Microsoft AD? So I think originally the concept was in dedicated mode, and then maybe now we can compare and contrast with the shared mode.
Sure. So with shared, it gets you closer to the concept of VDI. Now, to be clear on this one, when I'm talking about VDI in this instance, that's multi-session, where you have multiple users on one box that are all cohabitating and working next to each other. And that's what I would, in this particular case, think of as VDI. So we're trying to look at that type of workspace, but it is not that. So when we're saying that this is frontline in shared mode, the cloud PCs themselves can be shared amongst a pool of users. However, only one user is on one cloud PC at a time. And that is a huge differentiator between classic VDI multi-session, because with the classic multi-session, you could have the noisy neighbor scenario where somebody is running a resource-intensive application and consuming all the resources and impacts everybody else. Maybe their session crashes and it takes down everybody else. With this particular feature that we're bringing, there's only one user on one cloud PC at a time. It's just not their own. So when the user logs off, it resets back to a desired state, and then a next user can come and log on.
Good old non-persistence from VDI. From VDI world. Love it. And no, sorry, go ahead, Donna.
Well, and we're going to see the value of non-persistence. There's been big asks for that since Frontline debuted a couple of years ago. So trying to address that market and fill our customers' needs and help them on their journey to Windows in the cloud and modern management and all of that kind of good stuff. So I think we've done a pretty good job of trying to address that while also keeping it simple, because VDI is anything but.
Yeah, I agree. Like I feel like we've done a good job of addressing the different use cases, and also, I'd love to hear feedback from folks listening, from you. If the terminology of the dedicated mode and the shared mode, if that resonates, because we wanted to make sure that it's something that is clear, makes sense for you. That way, it's Windows 365 is supposed to be simple and easy. If it's not simple and easy, let us know.
Yes, I wholeheartedly agree with that statement.
And so, Kiati, I want to come over and ask you. You worked with the team and built lots of reports for the original Frontline. and especially like the dedicated mode. How do the different reports, how do they compare to in the shared mode? Are there overlaps? Does everything show together? Or like, what can you tell us about just like some of the reporting there?
Yeah, absolutely, Christian. So in terms of the reporting, there are, different reports that admins can kind of see to understand like how their concurrency is working in their tenants. Concurrency really just means how many active sessions are there at a given time, or how many users have logged on simultaneously on their own devices. So admins can take a look at, for example, the concurrency report to understand this. So now, in the tenant itself, Frontline, shared, and dedicated mode, they both do share the same licenses. We can explain that more maybe in like a different question. But the main difference here is that it's the same product, but it's just a different mode type. So as you're creating your provisioning policies and as you're spinning up cloud PCs, when you actually go through that provisioning policy, you can say, hey, I want to pick a shared mode or a dedicated mode. So depending on what mode you're using, you can pick for the use case that you need, but the reporting will be the same. One example I'd like to bring is device pool creation for frontline shared mode versus maybe um, controlling concurrency or setting a max concurrency for dedicated mode. It'll show on the same report because once again, you are managing concurrency or active sessions, but they might have different applications because of the different use cases. For dedicated mode, you have the ability to reserve these licenses versus for shared mode, you have to set the number of devices that you're creating so that you can say, hey, this group of users has X number of devices. And then through those reports, you can take a look, okay, well, here's the number of devices I've created, or here are the number of sessions that I've set. What's the actual usage?
Got it. That's cool. I do like how you mentioned it's the same license and then it's just a different way. The reporting also shows the frontline devices together. So it's really cool to see everything together. And I think actually what you were sort of mentioning or alluding to, Kiati, was like you use them in different ways. And that actually was a question we just got, which was when would people want to use shared mode and when would be better to use dedicated mode? What types of scenarios or environments do we see shared mode being used in? So like, I don't know. I'm sure all of you have different use cases. So like if you want to chime in, like let's just ping pong off each other.
I can go ahead and start off and then maybe go if you want to. And by the way, folks, I've got some construction happening next door. So sorry about that. Hopefully it's not coming in too bad. Um, But anyways, back to the question. So what are some different use cases? So as we've been talking about, shared mode is a great use case for, if you want to give an access to a device to multiple group of users. It's not exactly a unique device, not like you need to be individual. This use case would be great for maybe like a hospital comes to mind. You've got maybe nurses going in different patient rooms. They can quickly log on, access certain apps that they need, fill out info for the patient that they're seeing, and they can kind of move around that way. So, it creates quite a bit of flexibility for them. For dedicated mode, I think one of the best use cases that we use is call centers. So now the licensing for dedicated mode, as maybe some already know, for one frontline license, you can spin up to 3 dedicated mode cloud PCs. So now these cloud PCs, they are unique to the individuals, unlike with shared. So this works great for like call centers if you've got different shifts throughout the day. So maybe concurrently you'll always have 100 users, but you've got 300 unique users. So this would be a really great use case for you. You could purchase 100 licenses, spin up 300 cloud PCs, and then ensure that everyone's got their own cloud PC as they log on for their shift. So those are the use cases that come to mind for me, but you can expand on that.
Yeah, I think to add on that and also kind of combining with some of the conversation, like the answers that Donna made earlier. So it is good to remember that shared mode is non-persistent, meaning we are going to be cleaning up a lot of the data that is on the cloud PC. So if you do not need persistence, then share and the usage case is more of like an intermittent use case where the user occasionally needs to use a computer or for a short time, that might be the use case for shared mode. But if your user requires more persistence of your data, then dedicated mode becomes more of your preference here. So anything to add to that? Yeah. Yep.
Have we heard about this in the context of like training? Like I know there's orientation, and I know I've gone through different orientations for university and for work, and it's the same sets of browser tabs. Someone just shows up and carries that out, and it should be ready for the next user, right? Has that come up?
Exactly. Yeah, we're hearing a lot. Some customers considering using as part of like the training labs, and like in enhancement of that is we're also hearing from like school labs hearing that they might like to use this for their labs, so the users, when their students come in, they can use a computer, but when they're gone, that cleans up and restores to the good node state. So yeah, trainings, labs, those are also good use cases for shared mode.
And speaking of that, and then Donna, maybe you have additional examples, but for like education sector, do we have any special education, or is it still kind of enterprise focused for this Windows 365 kind of license? I don't know if Donna, if you have info, or Go if you
Donna, go ahead.
So we currently don't have a specific EDU SKU, so the licensing is just the licensing. And so you may be able to talk with your if you're in the education space, talk to your Microsoft rep about pricing, what we can do for that. But at this point, we don't have anything that's particularly geared towards the education space from a licensing perspective.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask that because I think I saw that in the question. So while we're talking about labs and whatnot, I wanted to see there. But Donna, do you have other use cases that you've heard of from talking to customers of how they would use shared mode perhaps use versus the dedicated frontline?
Yeah, I've heard examples from folks in retail where you may have some type of floor manager who may need to go and check a bit of inventory, where they're only going to be on a computer for 5-10 minutes, maybe a half hour to enter a quick report. So a great example use case for that. Talk to some folks in manufacturing, and they see an absolute use case for using this on shop floors, where somebody may need just to go in, enter a piece of data, and get out. Shared really fits those scenarios really nicely because the user doesn't need that computer for multiple hours. They're going to get in, do their job, and get out and go back to what they were doing before. And so in those type of either like a hot desking scenarios, it fits well. But the real golden scenarios are where somebody just needs to get in, perform a task, and leave versus staying logged in for an entire shift. And in that case, dedicated makes a lot more sense because that person is dedicated to using that computer all day for their entire jobs. But there's a lot of niche applications that could be used with it. The big key that needs to be pointed out, and Go brought this up earlier, is with the non-persistence. So if you have something that an application that requires persistent settings, dedicated is probably going to be a better fit for you. We still do have OneDrive and the known folder move. It was around when it was redirection, so I have to remember what that acronym, what the acronym changed to. But so you could still, have your Office docs follow you around, so that you're using enterprise state roaming that can follow around as well. But if something's going to be embedded in that user profile, Dedicated's probably a better fit.
That's actually raised a question for me. How does OneDrive work in the shared mode?
Yeah, well, I'll take that. So OneDrive does work for exactly the same as you do for dedicated mode and shared mode. You will have your own OneDrive assigned to you. So once you log into the shared mode, we will start the sync between OneDrive, and within a couple of minutes, you'll have everything that you own on OneDrive on top of the shared cloud PC. And again, this is a sync. So once you log out, we will resync, get it back to your OneDrive, and then that we will delete it after that. So that's how it works.
Okay, nice. And then we have a question coming in just in terms of the preview state. So they said this is this public preview right now, and what regions are supported?
Yeah. Today we are supporting Australia, East, Canada, Central, North Europe, Central India, Japan, East, UK South, Central US, and East US. These are the regions, and we are trying to add as we march towards GA.
Perfect. Do you know if there will be any more added by GA, or are we just trying to make sure we just add them as soon as we can, and but otherwise
Yeah,
we're looking for.
We are trying to add as we can, and this we're working closely with the team that is enabling those regions together.
Perfect.
But at the moment, we don't have any, like which region is going to be when. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. And then another question that came in: how can I see who is using the shared cloud PCs? Is it real-time data?
Kiadi, would you like to take this one?
Oh, there it is. So correct me if I'm wrong, though, but I believe that because shared cloud PCs, they don't really save any user data, and they are non-persistent. So I don't believe you're able to see user data in real time. Is that right?
Yeah, it is not in real time, but we do, I think the uniqueness of shared PC is that we're not assigning a user at the provisioning time. So, and the active user is going to be constantly changing. As we were running private preview, there was a lot of feedback from our customers that were participating, sharing that it is very important to know who is actually connected. So we are enhancing our concurrency report that you just referred to be able to click in and look into the actual users that are connected. So today, but this is not real time, it's close near time, which has a few minutes delta on the progress.
Yeah, I think because the way that the question was phrased, it makes me think how would an admin know? Okay, this user is using the Frontline shared. They seem to be logging in every other day, every day. Maybe I should get them a dedicated device. Is there enough information there for admins to make that decision, to make that switch over for that user?
That is a great question. At this moment, the reports that we have has a history of how the connection was made, but it does not yet include the history of who was connected at when. So that will be a little bit hard for us to make the decision right now. But the other way around, we do have a data for dedicated mode. So in dedicated mode, we know who was connected for how many hours in the past 28 days. It is based on the utilization report that we have, which also is supported for enterprise. And by looking into that information, admin will be able to look into the usage. And if there is low usage, they might think that that person might be better fit for the shared mode. The other way around is supported.
Right. And that kind of also made me think of for the dedicated mode. Katya, earlier you said how when you're creating the Frontline cloud PCs, you're using the same license pool, I guess. And you said that you could create like pools of like different sizes. So are there other ways also to control like how many different users can access, like because you can create a pool of like so many shared mode cloud PCs or so many dedicated. Are there, aside from creating pools, are there other ways to manage which users can access or how many can access?
Yeah, I would say that the best way to kind of control that access is when you're creating your intra ID groups. You can control which users you add to that. And when you are creating your provisioning policy within the assignments blade of the provisioning policy, that's typically where you go ahead and add, hey, these groups, or these groups of people should get like the size of a cloud PC, and that's where you can kind of limit depending on what mode, of course, you're using. If it's shared mode, you can say, hey, for this group of Entra ID users, I want to go ahead and give them maybe 5 cloud PCs that they can log on um, one at a time amongst that. For dedicated mode, for example, maybe you've got a group of 20 people, and then you can say, I want to go ahead and reserve 5 sessions or 5 licenses for these people. So, and I just want to clarify that when you're reserving licenses within dedicated mode, you're not taking away the number of cloud PCs you can create, and you're not, I guess, lowering the efficiency that Frontline gives you in terms of cloud PC creation. You're just saying like, hey, for these 20 people, I want to make sure that they have 5 sessions at all times, so that when other groups are on using the same SKU size, there is some space, or like, hey, these group of people are really important. They've got to have a space to log on at any given time, so I'm going to reserve X number of sessions. So all that can be done through the provisioning policy, and it's part of the cloud PC like creation process.
Okay, perfect.
May I add to that? Like, yes, and for shared mode, it's really easy to add and reduce the number of the cloud PCs for the group. It's just editing the provisioning policy, as Kiadi mentioned. So let's say you already have a pool of 5 cloud PCs, and you notice that you need more concurrency for the group of users. Then you can just, as much as you have the license left, you'll be able to add on, like, let's say you still have 2 more licenses left, so you can add 2 more cloud Frontline shared cloud PCs to that pool and give it to the group of users. And within like 30 minutes, you'll have the cloud PC ready and available for more concurrencies.
Perfect. I think that also relates to another question just came in. The question was, does it make it possible to do faster logins without password on multiple workstations and just pick up where you left off? No timeouts and no need to log off. Also, is there auto log off when you or any other person logs on?
And so there's a lot to unpack in those multiple. There's a lot to unpack. So I'm going to go ahead and start parsing through this. Feel free to jump in. So does it make to do faster logins? Shared compared to dedicated, shared is a little bit quicker because our shared cloud PCs are always powered on. If you're using dedicated, when the user logs off, their session is complete, we in the back end power off that virtual machine. So if you're using dedicated, it takes about a minute or 2 to actually get to the desktop. But if the fastest login you're going to have is on enterprise or business, because the machine it's there, the user state is there. And with shared, when you're logging in, it's not just an instantaneous to the desktop. We're actually building the user profile once they log in. So there's still a little bit of delay. So if you need the fast login is the holy grail for you, enterprise is the key. Without passwords on multiple workstations, we do support single sign-on. I'm not quite sure where we're going on that one. So if I'm missing any of these points, person with the question, please chime in. Really, if you want to do the going to multiple physical workstations and picking up where you left off, enterprise is probably going to be your best fit because, again, we're not powering off that virtual machine. We're not removing that user profile. It stays right where the user left it. On timeouts and no need to log off, you should be able to configure your log off on idle time. We're not setting by default that sessions only last 30 minutes and we kick people off. That's a terrible user experience. So the log off experience, we're going to leave that up to admins as to when on idle users, are their sessions end and the cloud PC goes to the pool. And I think on an auto log off, when you and any other person tries to log on, I think that kind of is reminiscent of good old RDS and MSTSC, where you would have try to RDP into a server and it would say, oh, somebody's logged on, do you want to kick them out? And then it'd give them 30 seconds. We're not doing that either. What we do have in the portal is a notification that there, and I'm going to get the verbiage wrong, so if somebody else feel free to correct me here, but we have a notation that there isn't, there aren't any available cloud PCs for you to connect. Please try again later. So we're not kicking anybody out. We're not empowering users to go ahead and have death matches so they can get the work done. If you're running into that issue though, where you're having users unable to connect in because the pool is filled, that's why we have concurrency reporting, and we encourage you to get a couple more licenses just to help expand the pool and fit your workers' needs.
That's also a really great point, Donna, and I just wanted to chime in. So just when you bring up concurrency report, that is a really great tool for admins to kind of see what's the usage like, over time. So sometimes that could mean, you just maybe need more licenses, or, for that SKU. But it could also mean that you may need to maybe go ahead and edit the device pools that you've created. And as Go mentioned before, it's really easy to do that by just editing the provisioning policy. And you can do that for both the shared mode and for dedicated mode. And I'll also point out that for dedicated mode, creating reserving concurrency sessions or licenses for users, that is completely optional. So if you don't feel the need to do that for some of your assignments, or you just want to do that for maybe one or two assignments, you have complete freedom to choose where you're reserving your sessions. So that flexibility should be within the IT admin's hand.
And then, oh yeah, sorry, you go ahead, Go. And then I'll take a question
I wanted to add a little bit around the log off or kick out times. So this is for both dedicated and shared, but we are admins do have the ability to change the idle timeout or the log off timeout. So it's all backed within Doom policy. So by default, for shared mode, the idle timeout is 15 minutes and the log off timeout is 30 minutes. But that if you want to be more aggressive, you can change the timer to be very aggressive. If you'd like to have more time, use the in-team policy, and you can put it up to, I think, maximum 6 days. With the policy.
Well, you just read my mind, Go. So I don't know why I'm here. I was going to ask about the timeout policies. So that's good to know. And I think that's in our documentation too, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay, perfect. Good. Well, I guess the next question, since you took mine, from tech community, are there any plans to support multi-user Windows 10, Windows 11 desktops for Frontline and shared mode?
Yeah, I'll take that. For now, we are really sticking to the single session because of some of the goodness that we know with single session. As Donna mentioned, when the user is logged in, that user has 100% percentage of the resources that they can use without getting interfered. App compatibility is another one that we know that it's better on single session. So we do not have any plans to support multi-session, multi-user at this point with share. But if there are use cases, we are happy to know and learn what they are.
Sounds good. And then Donna, I don't know if you have if you've had customer conversations on it, like how when customers have come up with multi-session and using as virtual desktop versus maybe using Frontline or Frontline in shared mode, what considerations should they make, or to steer them in one direction or the other?
Well, it kind of comes down to, for most customers, it kind of comes down to the the inherent benefits of PaaS versus SaaS, so your platform as a service versus software as a service. Yeah, Windows 365 is easy. You don't need to have any VDI experience. Any of the components that you need to properly set up VDI, user profile management, scaling plans, consumption, mitigation, that all goes out the window. So I used to joke that like to make a crack at that. Windows 365 was VDI for sysadmins because they're already in Intune, they already know how to deploy software updates, they know how to deploy the applications. That's pretty much all you need to know. If your organization has VDI experience and likes that tight control and knows how to save money on consolidating pools and expanding and contracting them as needed, has that expertise in-house, great, go ahead and use AVD. It's a fantastic solution. And it has way more, we call them bells and whistles than Windows 365. But that, again, it's a platform. It's giving you, the admin, the freedom to enable and disable and to use it as you want to. With Windows 365, we're provisioning cloud PCs and you're assigning users. So ultimately, it really comes down to what your organization is trying to get out of it. Are they trying to, run the most lowest cost operation possible? Then probably something with an AVD multi-session is going to make sense because you can scale up and down. But remember, if you screw that up, then you're going to have a pretty large Azure bill because you're paying on consumption. Whereas Windows 365, it's a flat rate. So you know that we've bought 100 licenses. This is going to cost us X amount of dollars a month or per year. Full stop. So, if your organization, has accounting needs where, you have flat guaranteed rate, Windows 365 wins in that one. So it comes down to lots of variables, but it really is, comfort with VDI. I'm not going to try to talk anybody out of AVD because it is a wonderful platform. I love it. It's how I got into, into Windows 365. But it really comes down to each customer's needs, what they're comfortable with, what they have the staff for, and what their end goals are.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like I'm biased/unbiased because I got to raise both products to their GA status, so I love them both equally. We have a question here, and I actually really love this question. We were talking about having your pools and raising the number of devices in that pool. So the question is, are there any plans to incorporate AI-based rules to automatically create new desktops based on load?
I could see a challenge with that one. Now, an AVD would make sense because you can spin up and add and destroy as needed. You're just paying on the consumption. With Windows 365, to add another cloud PC, you need another license. Now, whether or not that's that's not a definite yes or no, but I think that would complicate that question, because do you want to trust AI with your Microsoft account we need to add another 100 licenses. Oh, well, why did this go up? So anybody else feel free to chime in on that one.
Yeah, this is an interesting area. As everyone knows, Microsoft is investing in AI right now, and we are also exploring what AI can help us. One of the ideas was around using AI for like the pull controls, but the idea we had was more around when you're creating a pool, maybe we can do a little bit more of a recommendation. But this is an exploration area that we're looking into, and within we would assume some things will come in the future roadmap. One other piece related to AI that I can share today is like talking on dedicated mode. Everyone knows that does take time, a little bit of time to log on. It's around like 2 minutes when you start the day. And we are trying to look into use some of the intelligence that we have with machine learning and AI around that. So we can kind of try to predict when the user is coming in every day. And before the user comes in, we would actually launch the Cloud PC. So by the time the user actually connects, we would be, the Cloud PC is all up, and the connection time is reduced to just like you connect with the enterprise. So these are investments that we're looking into, and probably you will be seeing in a couple of like a month or a year from now.
All right, cool. And Kiati, I think you were wanted to add on maybe to what Donna was mentioning, or to
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I was really just going to share maybe more like an opinion, if anything. I would say that I could maybe even see, incorporating AI or Copilot into Windows 365, not specifically just shared in Frontline, but even for enterprise or business. Maybe it could be even a good opportunity to help new IT admins, because Windows 365 is a really great tool for even folks who have a little to no VDI experience. But I think, as Go mentioned, in terms of AI helping to kind of, maybe spin up cloud PCs or help admins understand like what would their best use cases be. But it could even serve as a great like guided experience for like a proof of concept. So just kind of had some ideas kind of swirling around in there as like the topic of AI came up. So
Yeah.
Thought I'd share.
Yeah. I think maybe it is important that, like we were saying, we're very in a very early stage. So lots of, we're seeing a lot of like ideas coming out and like looking into those altogether.
Yeah, and I guess speaking of the original question, the AI and load, we have the alerting feature that we've used with the Azure Network Connection, with provisioning. Is Frontline, whether it's shared or dedicated mode, is that hooked up to alerting? That way, customers can get an alert from their preference when like so many people are logging in, or people have already used up the pool and others are waiting. Is there any sort of alerting hooked up?
I can take that again.
Mhm.
Yes, we do have some alerting. So we already have in preview state, whenever the pool is used up, if you're hitting the max concurrency, we do have the Frontline alerting that you can set up an email that you receive an alerting when you're hitting that max concurrency. In addition to that, we do understand that there might be more alerting that or reporting that people may want. For one of the example is probably you might want to know a little bit more of how many users actually tried to connect but was not able to connect to the pool because it was already max concurrency. Those are a type of things that we know, and we're looking into investing to give more visibility to the admins.
Perfect. Yeah, because I know that we sort of brought that into Intune, and I know that I actually feel like we in our own environment we probably should use the learning feature more. But no, that's really cool. So yeah, folks, please do test that out, because I think that's maybe an undersung feature of the product too, just because it's not in the little Windows 365 blade, it's in the larger Intune administration blade. So, or was it tenant plus admin blade, whatever that one is. So yeah, folks, please do try that out and let us know how those work for you. And yeah, if the X many users tried and failed to connect on X day, like that, if that would be useful for you. There's one question here. How many clicks or seconds does it take to sign out? I'm going to assume for Frontline shared.
It's the same process. You can go to start, little power icon, sign out. So a handful.
And is there a difference? So in the Frontline, do you always have to sign out, or does disconnect work? Is there a preferred mechanism for users when you say, okay, yes, you're done with your session, do this?
Go, do you want to take that one?
Sure. So I think maybe sharing from the session is going to be complete, meaning it is freeing up the session for other users. That the timing for that is when the user signs out. So, and for the users to sign out, they will either need to go through the steps that Donna just mentioned, or get automatically signed out by that log off policy we mentioned earlier. So, and we also know that for these users, type of users, a lot of people do not actually do a sign off. They just close the window or app. And that is why the auto log off policy is so important, to make sure that you can free up those sessions for the other users. So,
right, because if you're just doing a task, you're like, oh yeah, Frontline shared, I'm gonna go check this inventory, like Donna mentioned. Like, all right, cool, I'm done. X. You're like, wait, but at some point we need to sign you out. Okay, cool. You have you have the policy. Got it. This is a really interesting question at the chat. Is the process of using it says, is the process of using recommended or custom images the same for shared mode? Maybe, gallery images.
Gallery
custom
image.
images. Yeah. Is the process the same? And also, what's the recommendation for a shared mode? And is there anything different in the Cloudpc setup for shared mode that we should be aware about?
So I believe we're supporting custom, correct me if I'm wrong on that. So if you're using custom images today and you're happy with them, groovy. But yes, there is something different that we're doing with Frontline shared than we're currently doing with either dedicated or enterprise or business. We'll be supporting Intune deployment provision, or is that a DPP? Is the
device provision profile.
Thank you. Yeah, acronyms are not my strong suit. So why am I at Microsoft? But what the cool thing is this actually solves a very, very, very old ask with Windows 365, which is ensuring that applications are installed prior to user logon. So you can define that set of applications within Intune through a DPP, and then when you're building your provisioning policy for Frontline shared, you can reference that provisioning profile. So that way, those applications that you list can be enforced. We have some other controls in there for a timeout. Do you want to prevent users logon if that fails, or just let them in with whatever's there? So we're giving admins for some control, but that should largely negate the need to do custom images, which has historically been the safest way to ensure that your security suites are installed prior to users. So not forecasting a lot of people wanting or needing to use custom images. Again, if that's your jam, have at it. But DPP should, largely, negate that need.
Yeah, and I think it's good to remind everyone that as a Windows 365 service, we are updating our gallery image every month with the latest Windows patches. So that will reduce your need to maintain to the latest updates. And what's unique for Frontline shared is that we are also bringing in the ability for you to re-provision the entire pool that you're creating through the edit mechanism. So you will have the ability to re-provision immediately, as a manual re-provision, plus the ability for you to schedule a re-provisioning of the pool in a weekly basis or a monthly basis. And with that together with that mechanism, you will be able to capture the latest gallery image, which contains all of the goodness of Windows Update, and then make sure that goes into the good known state again with the latest patches.
So is the recommendation there that folks do re-provision on the 30-day, after every patch Tuesday, or is it to use a Windows Update rings through Intune? Like, is there a difference, or what's the recommendation?
So I think for this particular use case, a lot of the customers will prefer to make sure that all of the cloud PCs within that collection or the pool is configured with the same OS versions. So to fulfill that use case, then reprovisioning with the latest images might be the better way. But we're not doing anything special to prevent you from using Windows Update. So if you are preferring to use Windows Update, please go using that as well.
Yeah, I guess Windows Update is more important for the frontline and dedicated mode, and then and the regular cloud PC, just because you don't want to take someone's cloud PC and throw it to the trash. You don't want to do that. So that's good to know. And then another question I have is, with the enterprise cloud PCs, with frontline and dedicated mode cloud PCs, when you're using the app, you hit the three dots and you have different device actions, because you're really just like, it's yours and you can reset and all this stuff. What actions are available for users when they're connecting to the frontline and shared cloud PC?
So great question, and good point that we have a little bit of a variety around, like based on the cloud PC types, that the remote actions are different. For frontline shared in particular, we will be supporting remote action labeled reset, which is actually on the back end. What we're going to do is to reboot the shared cloud PC, so that will enforce if there's any you as a user to log out from their cloud PC, and as part of that, you will be able to all of your profiles will be cleaned up. And once that reset happens, you'll be able to connect to a different cloud PC within the pool if you need.
Got it. So it's basically just a restart, but it feels like a reprovision because you're going back to the regular state.
Like we do see that this might become beneficial in a case where even for cloud PCs, there are cases that the cloud PCs might freeze for some reason, right? And there's no way you can recover. So in those cases, probably you want to and especially for these shared users, you would like to immediately go back to complete your task. So in those cases, you can try to connect to a new cloud PC rather than waiting for or troubleshooting to fix the issue.
Right. Let's see if we have more questions in the chat, or also if we have 6-7 minutes left. So we're basically wrapping up. I think we have one more question, and then we'll wrap up and kind of give our best tips and tricks for frontline and shared, and also frontline dedicated. So we run a shared workspace / hot desking business and need to post clear guidance on how folks should log on and log off. Do you have any ideas?
Posting clear guidance. You can tape things to monitors. There's I think having some type of training and documentation around your preferred mechanism, but going back to the log off and the cleaning up the cloud PC and it going back into the pool, I think it's probably going to be more crucial that you have your policies dialed in. So if users are disconnected because of a network blip, or they go get a cup of coffee, that they don't lose their data, or they're not their cloud PC, they're not booted out of it, but it's also short enough that users are moved off of there so they can go back to the pool. You have some internal training, post a document. What are the magic numbers? That depends on that's real. There is no magic set. If I were to pull some numbers out of my hat, probably 15 minutes. It depends on how long you anticipate users being away from their desk. If you're going to give them an hour break, and and then have them come back. Maybe dedicated makes more sense. So if your scenario here is where they're in for 5 minutes, 10 minutes to do their task, then maybe 15 is the magic. So there is no magic, one size fits all in that one. So I think between educating your users and setting a policy that fits good for those scenarios is probably the best bet.
I kind of want to jump in here too, because I'm going to try to add my last sentence so we can start to wrap it up. But the new Windows 365 link, if you've heard about that, basically it's a sign-in screen and it takes you straight to your cloud PC. That could be an amazing option. It's made for these sort of hot desking scenarios. So that way there's nothing you have to tell users. They sign in with their username, password, or security key, and then they get taken to their cloud PC. Or back in, and you can see that information at ak.ms/Windows 365 link. And then also back in, I believe, October, our good friend, also a CAT PM, Shannon Fritz, he wrote a document or a blog on how to deploy the Windows app in essentially a kiosk mode. That way, when users get to the hot desking station, if you use like a shared user, you just hit enter and unlock, you would sign in with your user, or the user would log in, and then the Windows app would launch in their contacts. They would see their Cloud PC little card on the Windows app show up, and then click it. So there's a couple different options there. The Windows 365 boot feature on Windows 11 does not yet support Windows connecting to Frontline and shared mode devices, but we're working on it. So if you want to even avoid guidance, there are some deployment options that actually get rid of having to deal with that guidance. So let's kind of wrap up and do our tips and tricks. I'll just say for mine, my nice and simple one is you should try Windows 365 Link with Frontline Shared. Definitely work with the account manager to get a device or two. That can, again, really help your hot desking call center scenarios and feels like a great all-around solution. Donna, what's yours? What's your little tips and tricks?
I was going to say using Link too, because I'm in the public preview and I've been in the private preview. I've been using it for over a year now, and I love the user experience. Absolutely, get your hands on one. Try it. It is remarkably slick. It really is. It's really cool. I've also been using it with shared, probably not in the best intended scenario because I'm trying to work a full shift in there. So,
Yeah,
but trying to get some hours. But both, if you haven't used Frontline, see if you can get some trial licenses. Try it out. Mix it, match it between like a Link or whatever. Find out. Just try the stuff and see what works. But if you do that, I guess the biggest trick is give the feedback to the folks like us so we can incorporate that feedback and improve the product. So that's probably the biggest trick, is to keep an open line of communication with us.
Yeah.
How about you,
Go? What's yours?
Yeah, for me, I would say, myself, I use Frontline dedicated for my personal use in my work environment, and it's working pretty nice. So we've been talking about Frontline dedicated for like a cost center scenario, but it is also it is a personal cloud PC that you can use for IWs as well. So if the need meets, I think it'll be a good use for your organizations. So please evaluate. And we are continuing to invest in Frontline dedicated as well. So if there are any feedback you would like the login improvements, please share it with us, and we will look into our future investments. So, yeah, to you, Kiati.
Awesome. Well, I think that last question, it just kind of reminded me, working on these two modes, it's just really awesome to see the flexibility that Frontline's expanded to. Our goal with Frontline has always been to, offer flexible options to customers. So, if you've got different use cases, just keep in mind, Frontline shared and dedicated, they use the same licenses. So, if you feel like, hey, I've got some folks that really need like shared mode. They'll be kind of in and out with their work, kind of like Donna was saying. Go ahead and spin up some shared cloud PCs for those groups. And if you've got a couple people, who like need dedicated usage, you can always create a different provisioning policy and assign them or create dedicated mode cloud PCs. So, just know that the flexibility is there. It's in your fingertips. I also wouldn't be a feature PM without also adding, please always continue to give us feedback, because customer feedback is really number one when we're investigating, improving, and planning. So that's it for me.
Awesome. Yeah, and that's at ak.ms/w365 feedback. So thank you, Donna, Go, Kiati, for joining today. It was such a fun session.
This was fun.
And obviously this is a fun monthly thing. Like Donna and I are plugging Windows 365 link. We'll have an upcoming Ask Up Anything soon. So please visit ak.ms/ama/Windows 365 for those upcoming dates and to see when we're going to have our Windows 365 link product group here to join us on the call. But thank you for joining, and have a great day, have a great morning, afternoon, evening, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Thank you.